Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to week 5 in CE 155, Facility Layout and Design. Hopefully everybody can hear me well out there, and I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. It's a little bit early in the afternoon here in Tucson, Arizona with this time change. I absolutely love it because it's only 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which leaves plenty of time for the remainder of the day to cook, slice, and dice. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We were talking to Samantha at the beginning before we started the class, and I really appreciate that kind of effort. I know that she's under a lot of pressure tonight and putting out a big catering job, and that's just great to show that type of dedication to growing within the industry. And as always, Chef Suzanne and I welcome you to another fine live session as she's over there sipping on her boba drink. Making me thirsty just watching. So, hey, ladies and gents, 2 weeks left in this class. We are down to the wire. We need to make sure that we finish strong. Everybody can do it. If anybody out there is feeling as though they need some help to get through this class, now's the time to reach out and do it. Chef Suzanne and I have got your back. We can do it. We're going to help you out. There are some amazing rock stars in this class. Chef Suzanne has been really impressed with the assignments that have been rolling across her desk, and I cannot thank you enough for that type of effort and work. But you know what? Week 5, 2 weeks to go. Rock the house, ladies and gents. Let's finish strong. I know everybody can do it. Week 4. Who wants to share something about week 4 with our back of the house design? Who wants to step up to the podium?
I think it was hard to put all the equipment in the space based on the square footage per seat.
Yeah.
It was hard.
That's a really interesting point that you bring up. Because those of us that are culinarians first and restaurateurs second, the kitchen design is always a real struggling point for us because we want more space, more equipment, and in all reality, financially, we just can't carry that burden. So it should have been a struggle, and it will always be a struggle until we figure out how to come over that hump. So good point, Paul. Thank you. Who else has feedback on week 4? Roy, what about you down there? Got any feedback on week 4?
No, it's pretty simple for me. I actually been.
What's that?
I'm actually in the industry, so it's actually pretty simple for me. Back of house is fine. My forte.
Okay, so you were able to lay it out all right?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Did you find it difficult doing the front of the house then?
Front of house, yeah. It's totally different for me.
Yeah.
Total opposite for me.
It's a different world. It's really common these days, though. We used to have front of the house managers, we used to have director of food and beverages, and then we used to have an executive chef. As things are merging in this industry, now they're calling the position chef and B, where the chef, the guy in the back of the house, is now taking over the front of the house. And I think Chef Suzanne's husband does something similar to that. And I also work with a fellow that does something similar to that. So this front of the house portion is really critical to the growth in the industry. Thanks, Roy. Who else has something to share? Melanie, what about you?
I had Metro racks all over the back of my house. I used every single inch of space that I could, any free wall space that I could give myself. I just put my hotline in the very middle of my kitchen. That way I could just have all my ventilation right in the middle. And then I just had Metro racks everywhere, and I had lots of dish rack things, and I was like, I want extra space to put everything. I need extra space for, packaging for my products because I want a more bakery type. Not a bunch of cupcakes, all your different holders and cases for everything.
Right.
Yeah, storage. So I went crazy with Metro rack.
That's actually a very intelligent mentality because the more storage we have, that increases our purchasing power. That enables us to purchase larger quantities, which drives our pricing structure down. Although it does get expensive, purchasing in that manner, you save yourself a lot of money in the long run. So I like that mentality. I'm a big believer in Metro Racks. I have them all over every kitchen I work in because they're movable. You can store things on them, pots, pans, food, etc., etc. So those are some great comments. Chef Suzanne, what's your feedback on week 4?
Well, I remember when this group started, they seemed really unsure about heading into some of these last week and then this week. And you couldn't tell by looking at the assignments. There was some great utilization of space and creativity on where things are going to be set up. We're really not reinventing the wheel with this. You know, a lot of kitchens are built very similar. And so I feel like it's to me, it's funny because, you know, you all just see the one you made. I see all of them, and to see how many people like put a hand sink on the right side of the right door. Just to me, that's funny. It's almost like everybody was like, I think we should all discuss where to put a hand sink. We should all put one right here. And just to me, it's funny to see it's like we all think at least a little bit, you know, some of the same, you know, it's like I look and be like, oh, like there are so many grills in that exact same spot on the back line. You know, it's just so, you know, they're different, but there are so many things that are the same, it makes me laugh. I'm like, wait, did they copy? No, they didn't. Like literally they all just had the same idea. They are like, we need a sink here. So I just think that's interesting, but they really outdid themselves on what I was expecting to see. And there was some, I mean, the grades were phenomenal this week. If there was issues, it seems to be always trash cans and hand sinks. So again, if that's the biggest issue is forgetting to put in some hand sinks and trash cans, y'all are going to be okay.
Yeah, I like that. That's fantastic. Great feedback. I really appreciate that. It sounds like the class did another fantastic job this week. Did anybody think about footsteps when they were laying out their kitchen? Did anybody? Yeah. Was that an interesting thought to anybody? Mary Lou, what'd you think about the footsteps?
I just figured, to me, I'm like thinking my personal use, it's like I like to have the refrigerator close to me. So it's like that was like my main focus. Walk-ins and all that, it's like close to the stove to where I'm not having to run around like crazy. And that was like my main concentration. And I'm like, to where I put my sinks, as far as cleaning came, it was like more of an open space. It's like in case you need to stack up pots, things of that sort. So that was my main focus. It's like my thing is like, don't make me walk 10,000 feet to my refrigerator.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's amazing. It's a really interesting thought process because a lot of people don't take that into consideration when they're laying out their kitchens. And you have to remember, if you have somebody there on your staff from 8 to 10 hours per day, you know, 5 to 6 days per week, that's a lot of hours, number one. And then number two, if you're having them walk additional distances that are small, but they add up over that 8 to 10 hours over that 5 to 6 days. And it really does take a wear and tear on your staff and on your equipment. So great feedback, everybody. It sounds like week 4 was a success here in CE 155. Let's take a look at some information for this approaching week. Welcome to week 5, everybody. Please remember, it's very, very important that all makeup work for week 6, not week 12. And this entire course are due no later than Sunday, March 31st at 11:59 p.m. We are unable to accept late submissions. So everybody, please get all of your work in no later than 1 week from this Sunday, which is March the 31st at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Chef Suzanne gets hit with a tremendous amount of work on that following Monday and Tuesday. It's impossible for her to be able to start the next block that following Wednesday. So please be respectful, do not procrastinate, and get that work in as soon as possible. Remember, you can do it. If you feel as though you need help to get past this class, please ask. Chef Suzanne and I are here for your success. We want to see nothing more than everybody get through this class. And then Chef Suzanne and I are here for your support. Now, we just talked about a couple of mishaps in the kitchen. Gabriel was nice enough to share this with us last week during the live session, and I didn't have a chance to get it put up. So Gabriel, I hope it's okay with you this time to be showing it, because we're going to We talked about some of the little details that you miss out on, the hand sinks and the garbage cans. Those are extremely costly mistakes when it comes to developing restaurants. Let's take a look at some disasters that happen in the kitchen. First, this is a picture over here on the left-hand side that Gabriel shared with us regarding New Year's Eve. And this is a prime example of poor operational flow. That is our assignment this week. Operational flow is critical. And if you look at this dish pit, these poor fellows are buried. What do you think those people are doing for dishes right now? Do you think your cooks are running over there and washing them off real quick to bring them over to plate again? It's and I've seen that happen. So operational flow that we are working on is critical. Here's another dish pit that went south. Just did not come to fruition. And I've seen this site before in kitchens, and it's what we call a Black Friday, when everything goes down the tubes, and this is what you end up with. And if you do not treat your dish staff with respect and honor, that's what they leave you with. So there's this old thing in the kitchen. I remember when I first became a chef, I was holier than thou, and dishwashers were just entry-level people. And I learned certainly over the years that those are some of the most valuable key staff members, and always treat them with respect and kindness, and take care of them, because they can really affect your operation. This is an instance of bad plumbing that backed up. Right here, can you imagine what the price tag on this was, right? And this is what will happen to you if you forget to put your hand sinks in the right spot. So what Chef Suzanne is preaching, she is speaking the truth, and those are situations that I have seen before. Any comments on that, Chef Suzanne?
Having additional plumbing, I mean, even forgetting a sink like that, I mean, that probably was some sort of an issue, but plumbing is just so ridiculously expensive. So if you design your kitchen and you forget to put a hand sink in, hopefully the health inspector or someone will catch that. But if they don't, and you get your kitchen built and you have a huge kitchen and one hand sink, you're going to have to put in another one. Just even if you're not required to by a health department, just out of necessity, you're going to need another one. And the expense is astronomical to have to do that. So that's part of the reason that, you know, those little things like we were talking about earlier mean they can mean so much, and they can be really costly.
Yes, those do add up. There's an old saying that us old chefs have, and that is, we never mind having to do something once, but we hate having to do it twice, and that's one of the reasons. So always attention to detail in this industry. Let's take a look at our Week 5 class page. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about exterior design and landscape, which is a very critical element to a restaurant experience, because it does set the tone before you walk in the door. And then thank you very much, everybody, for being here at this live session. As a reminder, it is very, very difficult in this class to succeed without watching the live session, or watching the live session archive, or reading the weekly presentation notes that are posted on the class page. We've had kind of a challenge with that, with people attempting to do the assignments, and it just doesn't seem to come to fruition very well. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time to be here. It's just making your education that much better. Discussion, we do have a discussion forum this week, which we're going to talk about here in detail in just a moment. And then we will be designing our kitchen for operational flow this week. And that is going to be the big lesson tonight. Operational flow is something we oftentimes do not think about when it comes to designing a restaurant. Do we have a stove? Check. Do we have a mixer? Check. Do we have an oven? Check. But where that equipment goes is essential. You know, they used to talk about Feng Shui and how important that was. Well, guess what? Culinary Arts is right there with them. Taking a look at our discussion forum this week, we are working on peer review. This is one of the most critical elements in the world of culinary arts. This leads to networking. Networking in this industry is next to nothing. That is the most important thing that you can do, and Chef Suzanne will back me up on this. We network constantly. Every position I've had, I don't apply for jobs. I don't look for jobs. People call and they say, hey, what are you doing? Isn't that right, Chef Suzanne? Yeah?
That is absolutely right. Yes. That's part of the best part. Networking is amazing.
Yeah. So develop these relationships now, because as you progress in this industry, you know, if you open up a place, become a chef, start cooking somewhere, you're going to start meeting people, and these relationships are what we rely on in industry to attract the best help that we can get. So this week, remember that your initial post will be due Saturday, and Saturday no later than 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. That initial post is worth 6 points. Each reply, you have to reply to 2 other students. Each reply is worth 2 points for a total of 10 points. If you fail to make your initial post on Saturday and you make it on Sunday, then you only get 5 points. These discussion forums are worth a good portion of your final grade, so make sure you take the time to do it right and get it done. Very important. Once again, this leads to networking. You're developing relationships with your peers. We're going to be sharing our concepts with our classmates, and we're going to be providing positive, constructive feedback on on everybody else's concept. We don't need to hear things like, this isn't good, this is garbage, you know, consider a different career. No, that's not positive feedback. We need to hear things like, hey, I really enjoy the way your dining room looks, but hey, if you were to shift that over to the other side and allow more room for your guests, maybe that would be a great idea. And that's how we learn and grow. We talked earlier in this class that when you develop a concept, you need to share it with your fellow culinarians and other people in the industry to get feedback on what you're doing. And make sure you do it. Every week when I put this class together, the first person I pick up and I talk to is Chef Suzanne. Hey, what do you think? You know, review it. Let me know. And it makes it that much better. And that's the way we develop restaurants. So you're going to be sharing all of this information in the discussion forum. Right down at the bottom of this page, you'll see how to click and post into this forum. You're going to write the information out as required and then just provide a link to your concept. And that will allow your other students to view it. Do we have any questions about this week's discussion forum? Ladies and gents, don't forget. Yes, Paul.
So you want us to hit on all those topics that were listed on the screen there?
No, you do not have to write out to each one. When you provide your link, you will answer a lot of those questions.
Okay, all right. Or so just copy paste the link.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And obviously, you'll be providing a brief summary of your concept as requested there on the sheet.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? No. Let's move on to this week. Since we do have a little bit of a busier week, I hope everybody takes the time to follow these recommendations. This is exactly what we do when we get into the kitchen. Chef Suzanne picks up her clipboard, gets a cup of coffee, and starts the daily stroll. And we make our prep list, who, what, when, and where. Every day, that's what chefs do in industry. Get yourself in the habit now. This is a recommended prep list here. We did have some editing down at the bottom by who I don't know, but they are recommending that we eat cake on Monday and Sunday. Yes, from the smiles of my co-host there, I think she might know something about that. But
Chef,
on Monday, what's that?
You were just discussing how you do send things to me, you know, to contribute, and it felt like I was going to contribute a little extra this week. So, and actually, that's Monday through Sunday. So
Monday through Sunday, okay. Yeah. So she's recommending that we eat cake, and yes, ladies and gents, in the kitchen we do have a lot of fun. And things oftentimes do get out of control because chefs are under a lot of pressure, and when we start goofing off, it gets bad. So, you know, just have a sense of humor about your way. So Monday or Wednesday, read and understand the research materials. Thursday, thank you, ladies and gents, for being here at the live session. Submit your initial post today for the discussion forum. Should take you about 10 minutes to get it done. Begin your first draft of the assignment on Friday. Saturday, sit down with a cup of coffee, look at it again, check it against the rubric, submit it. Bingo, everybody submit your assignments by Saturday. Respond to 2 other students' posts in the discussion forum on Sunday, right? Sit down with another cup of coffee or that Thai tea coffee, like Mary Lou was talking about earlier. Bingo, you're done. Make any corrections to the assignment as suggested Monday and Tuesday. And of course, do not forget the eating cake part, which I think is very critical. Moving on. Does anybody have any questions so far? We all good? Let's get into some meat and potatoes on this whole exercise. Exterior design for restaurants. Number one, right off the bat, when I think about the exterior design, the first thing that comes to my mind is dollar figures. So you need to have a very realistic idea of what you can spend on the exterior of your dining room, or exterior of your restaurant. The first thing that people see before your food is the exterior area of your restaurant. It should coincide with your concept. It's extremely critical. If you are a sleek, modern facility, you should have a sleek, modern design on the outside. If it's a country cafe, it should look like a country cafe. It's very critical. You are setting the guest expectations in one sense, and in another sense, you are also drawing guests into your facility. That is the idea. A lot of companies, such as Domino's Pizza, actually consider the exterior of their restaurant and the signs to be a method of marketing, and it's actually in their marketing budgets, the exterior and the signage. So depending on how you think about the exterior of your restaurant, that'll explain how you will pay for it. Over here is some good information regarding curb appeal and how it can have a major influence on your success. They said that about 70% of first-time sales are in direct relation to the exterior of your restaurant. Is that incredible or what? 7 out of 10 customers that walk into your restaurant the first time are drawn in by the exterior. So that's a pretty major number right there to contend with. And then customers are willing to pay a little bit more based on the atmosphere. Mary Lou was sharing at the beginning of this class about a fellow who makes a great product in a local tea house. And she was mentioning, man, if he was to put a little bit of garnish on there, he could charge more for his food and it would look better. It's the same mentality with your restaurant design, right? So the nicer your exterior is, the nicer your price tag is on the inside. So if you spend a little bit more money on the outside, plan on charging a little bit more money for what you sell on the inside. Make sure that you do have some signage that is visible. And when you do your signage, and I've seen this so many times, and I made a big mistake once on my second restaurant with this one, make sure that the signage is readable from a distance. We love crazy fonts that represent the way we feel on the inside, but can people see it from a distance? So make sure that your font is easily readable and legible from a distance. If you look at this house right here, man, you can see that from miles away. You know exactly what they sell, right? Pies, clear as day. Choose your colors very, very wisely. Your colors will set the ambiance on the inside. It's very important. If you have a lot of browns and beiges, that'll set a little bit more of an upscale type environment. Reds, yellows, and blues will be in a little bit more casual, fun. So the color scheme starts on the outside. And then greenery is something that we like to add to our restaurants. Greenery is very inviting, and it's very, very comforting to those of us that are looking for a place to eat. It reminds us of home, gives us a good feeling. So greenery is something that's very, very important. However, with greenery, you need to be extremely careful. I've had friends that have done restaurants and done lush gardens, bushes, roses, and all these other wonderful things that are growing outside their restaurant. Then all of a sudden they realize they have to maintain that stuff on a monthly basis, and it's expensive, right? So be conscientious. Go with a low maintenance, low care design for your exterior. And then I love this statement down here, make your restaurant Insta-worthy. having a restaurant where people want to take pictures of it and take pictures of themselves in front of it is just too cool. And what a great form of marketing that is. This picture down here in the lower right-hand corner.
Come on, Monty Python. Anybody?
Yeah, because
Monty
he's gonna say
Python?
me.
Huh?
Who said that?
I did. Don.
Don. You were
Yeah,
the
Monty
best.
Python is awesome. Yes.
Is that Monty Python?
Monty
Yes.
Python and the Holy Grail.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
You cannot pass.
Okay, then, okay.
You shall bring
then
us-
under
You should
Under
bring
those-
us a shrubbery. Yes.
Right. The shrubbery.
Shrubbery.
Owen Rackens.
under those circumstances, then I would agree. I think I've mentioned this probably a couple of times. My wife and I ate at one of the world's top restaurants in Mexico City, and you would think, that they would have a whale of an exterior and et cetera, et cetera. And it was, I think it was the third or fourth ranked restaurant in the world at that time. This is a couple of years ago, by the name of Peugeot. And we could not find the place. It was the darndest thing. We drove around for hours trying to find this place, and it turns out it was in a building with no signage, no windows, and just a door. And it fit their concept perfectly because they were sleek, sophisticated, and under key. And that's what it led to. And there was a 3-month waiting list to get into this restaurant, and somehow we managed to get in. But so it all depends on where you're going with your concept. These are some pictures of some exteriors that I appreciate, especially SpongeBob and the Krusty Krab. Very important. It's a very nautical themed restaurant at the bottom of the ocean, so it works out quite well. But when I take a look at this restaurant up here in the upper left-hand corner, that screams to me, hey, let's go have quiche. Let's have some types of salads, a brunchy kind of place. And it screams its concept. I would not go there and order a ribeye steak with pommes frites, or I wouldn't order baby back ribs. It just doesn't fit the concept.
Sure you would. It's a beer garden.
Well, that's German.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rump steak.
Yeah. And then down here in the lower left-hand corner, we're getting a little bit more into the country club type feel, a little bit more elegance, and it's set by the greenery, the sophistication, the colors of everything lead to that. And the same thing here. This is what I would refer to as an Insta-worthy type restaurant. I mean, everybody, I'm sure, loves to have their picture taken out there next to the Capital Kitchen milk bottles, which work out real well. And then this is just sleek and understated and sophisticated. So those are some awesome exteriors to take a look at. Just remember, your exterior really, really needs to portray your concept. It's got to be that way. So try to be creative, unique, and bring your concept to the outside. Parking is another big thing that we worry about when it comes to exteriors. Depending on where you're at, if you're in a downtown area, parking is not as essential because there's quite a few parking garages or street parking. But if you're out on the outskirts or in suburbia, parking is pretty critical, and the condition of your parking lot is also a critical element. I've pulled into many restaurants over the years, and the parking lot is filled with potholes, and there's garbage, and it's unpoliced, and it kind of sets that tone for when you walk into the restaurant, and that's not something you want to see. So that is another area that must be maintained. Any questions about restaurant exteriors? Any thoughts, concerns?
Gabriel has his hand up.
Gabriel, what's up, man?
Hi, Chef. I was just going to comment on like how Domino's, they don't even use words anymore. It's just the logo, and everybody knows it now.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool how they just use a logo. And exactly what I mean. You can be walking down the street cross-eyed, and you see that, and you know exactly what it is. So,
my dearest friend and next door neighbor is the third largest Domino's franchisee in the United States, and so I get fed a lot of information, and that's where they're going. They've actually refocused themselves more as a technology company versus a food company. And interesting enough, Domino's pizzas don't have to be licensed by the health department. because they are considered a bakery because they don't actually prepare anything there, and it's just heated up in an oven, so they operate underneath a bakery license. So it's a pretty interesting concept. Yeah. Don, what's going on?
Yes, sir. So yeah, earlier you were talking about the back of the house, the front of the house, and utilizing space. This goes outside as well as ADA requirements, American Disability Acts. That's something that a lot of people don't consider. So when you're using that space in your kitchen, don't forget you have fire department is 3 feet, so does ADA, is 3 feet distance between things. And then I would say for the outside of it, the flow of the rain, where the rain goes, there's a clutter in the gutters. Where are the gutters? Did they get cleaned out? Because I think Mary Lou mentioned a couple of weeks ago in reference to construction and a facility, if she chose her restaurant somewhere, that would take business down and you couldn't do anything. So that's another thing to consider is where's that water flowing? Is it going into the building? Is it recessed outside of it? That type of thing. And I don't know what OSHA standards are, but those are things to consider when I'm thinking of the facility and stuff like that.
Those are huge. Those are huge architectural and engineering things that need to be dealt with. ADA accessibility in the dining room is a really critical issue. We want to make sure our doors are open and welcoming, and our facility can accommodate anybody in the ADA category. However, kitchens still to this day are not really what I would consider to be too ADA accessible.
True.
Which is kind of sad because that'd be a great source of employees for us because there's some fantastic folks out there. The drainage is a huge issue in the restaurant industry. My first sous chef position many years ago was at a restaurant that was owned by a very wealthy man, and he had his very exclusive bank at the lower end of the parking lot, below the restaurant, and the drains were not done well. And every time our drains backed up in the restaurant, it flooded the bank's lobby, and it was not clientele of the nature that liked standing in sewage. So, that was a very expensive fix for them.
Chef?
Yeah.
Is there a clientele that likes standing in sewage? I'm just asking. I mean, I know theirs is not the kind, but I mean, is there some? I feel like there isn't.
I don't know. Let's make that the discussion forum for next week. Yeah.
Depending on what country you're in.
Yeah. Depending on, yeah. Mary Lou, what do you have?
Really quick on the whole, the displays outside attracting people. The only thing that kept jumping into my mind as I was reading the information was the Riverwalk in San Antonio. I mean, if you've ever been there, it's like all those restaurants are where they're just jumping out at you, and how easy it is to identify one from the other one. Obviously, the Rainforest Cafe, the Hard Rock Cafe, all those are like so different. So that's the one thing that it's like kept jumping to my mind. It's like how just walking down the Riverwalk itself could either one be very appealing, and it's like, or at the same time it could be very overwhelming just by seeing all these signs, all the chaos out there.
Right. Yeah, and that's a really valid point, because I mean, all restaurants, and individualism is extremely important, because you don't want to appear equal to the restaurant next to you. You want to appear in your own unique fashion, and that's important. And it kind of drives me crazy when you get into a densely populated area with a lot of restaurants, and it just becomes loud and noisy. And I think people aren't doing that to express their concept. They're doing that to attract you versus an actual expression. And I think those are two different categories to think about. So that's a valid point. Anybody else have comments before we move on to operational flow? As in flow, right? Chef Suzanne? Anyone else?
Mandy has her hand up. There she is.
Yeah, here I am.
Hi,
Sorry.
Mandy.
Hi, the neighbor just decided to use his air wrench. To comment and a question. Talking about the exterior and, really great ideas. The one that springs to mind is, I don't think it'd work anywhere else in the world, but the Heart Attack Grill in Vegas, down Front Street. It's ridiculous there. I've never been in there. I just keep meaning to go, and I don't, but just the exterior itself, the fact they have a giant scale, they dare you to weigh yourself in public. I think that's insane. But my quick question was, as far as at the exterior of your food truck, And I was thinking about that when we were doing front of house design, because the outside of the is considered front of house. And, you know, I've kind of got a green thumb. I was thinking, you know, I'll drag some shrubs along and throw them out there or something. I was trying to think about doing it for when I was doing that, and forgot my trash can.
Yeah, understanding where you're going with this question, it's kind of, it kind of goes into the category that Mary Lou was just talking about when you're walking down the Riverwalk and there's a lot of restaurants fighting for identity. And I think with food trucks that generally find themselves in densely populated areas with other food trucks, I think a good, solid identity is extremely important, especially in that area. I don't know about the shrubs and all that other kind of stuff. That's something you'd have to kind of figure out. But you know, you definitely would need to come up with a visual appeal that would be drawing and attracting your customers that you can realistically maintain.
So I would want to put that front of house budget and the exterior budget, all that kind of advertising. I can kind of draw all of that from that aspect of my budget, correct?
Your marketing budget is where that money would come from.
Maybe like the wrap on the trailer, or that whatever, that kind of thing, and whatever I put outside.
For a food truck, it's all marketing.
Okay.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gents, any other questions? Anyone else? Let's move on and talk about operational flow, which is a critically underestimated subject here. It looks like our anonymous editor added in another picture here. So I guess we have Flo that's going to be working with us tonight on the slides. So Flo is here. Good design, good workflow design. If you can just remember these 6 things, it will help you tremendously with this week's assignment, and it will help you for the remainder of your career in the restaurant industry. It all starts at the back dock with receiving, delivery and receiving. That's where we accept all of our orders, everything else. That's our starting point for our operational flow. Storage. Someone was sharing earlier about all the Melanie was sharing earlier about all the Metro racks and everything else. That's absolutely fantastic. Storage is in short supply in most restaurants. If you're able to work it where you are able to purchase in quantity versus how often you purchase, you will save yourself a lot of money in the long run. Large purveyors work with what we call drop size rebates. Drop size rebates are based on the size of your delivery, not on your case count, but on your dollar count. So for example, if you're a smaller cafe and you're buying about $1,000 a week in food, which is a pretty small amount, you're going to pay a very high price. But what the purveyors will do, if you're doing what we call larger drop shipments, where it's a one order of $5,000 every other week, right, because you have enough storage to facilitate that much food, then they will rebate a portion of that $5,000 back to you. So you just saved, 5-10%. And when your profit margin is only 6 to 10% in this industry, that's a big chunk of change. So think about that additional storage and receiving, where you're going to put that product, especially your storage areas, critical. Food preparation areas, those are going to be your prep areas. When your case of romaine lettuce comes in, where are you going to wash it? Where are you going to slice those deli meats? Where are you going to make your sauerkraut, right? Where are you going to prepare all these things? So you have to have a good preparation area with ample storage as well. And then cooking on your hotline, we've established what that is. That's where your burners, grill, deep fryer, and all that. That's your assembly area of the kitchen. And then for your operational flow, it is critical that you have an area. We all have learned at this point, we prepare our food, it goes into the window, correct? Right? And underneath the heat lamps. And then we have an expediter that assembles the food and sends it out to the dining room. Your operational flow needs to reflect a clear and concise path from the dining room to the window. and there should be no interruptions in between either one of those destinations. And then the final cycle in the kitchen flow is the cleaning and warewashing. Right? Oftentimes, as we just saw at the beginning of the class, way underestimated. You have to remember, if you have, if you're serving a simple meal of a salad, an entree, and a dessert, and you do 200 customers, that's 3 plates per customer, that's 600 plates, right? That's a lot of stuff going through that dish area, right? Each one of those people uses 2 glasses, one to drink out of, and then one for water. So that's, 400 glasses and 600 plates. That's 1,000 pieces of smallware that you have to wash for 200 people. Throw in the silverware, right? Each guest gets 4 pieces of silverware, knife, fork, knife, 2 forks, and a spoon, right? 4 times 200, that's 800. So now we're up to 1,800 pieces of smallware for 200 guests. So that's a lot of stuff. Then you throw in the pots and the pans that you use to wash all that stuff or cook all that stuff, and you've got a monster. Do not underestimate the volume going through your dish area. And it is an area that should be designed with a lot of efficiency. You have to remember the people that are working in that dish area, it's a hot environment, it's physical, and the days can be long. You want to treat these people with a good work environment with a lot of respect. They really appreciate it. You'll get a lot more mileage out of them. So don't think about it as a second area. And then moving on to our next slide, we're going to take a look at a slide where they didn't do the best operational when they laid out the area. So let's move over there. So you can see on this slide, I think this is a faux restaurant. And they've done an operational chart here. And if you can look in this area right here, what do you think it's like working in there? That is what we refer to as a bottleneck, right? You have lots of lanes of traffic crossing over each other, and they're bumping into each other, and it's just causing a big nightmare. So these are the things that you want to avoid. There should be a straight line from point A to point B. And there will be some times when you're crossing over, there will be some small bottlenecks in your kitchen, but they need to be minimalized, and they also need to be rationalized in your mind. So those are things that you're going to need to be thinking about for this week. So your goal with this week's assignment is to minimize bottlenecks and overlaps. And then you need to have a clear path, like I was just talking about, that leads to the front of the house. It's got to be an A to B. It can't be an A to Z to B to C to D, because otherwise you're going to bottleneck, servers are going to spill food. Your staff has to have easy access to the dishes that you have chosen to prepare, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. You don't want, I think Mary Lou was talking about this earlier, the amount of footsteps it takes to go to the walk-in and back. You don't want to have your cooks having to walk 100 feet to get a hamburger patty to put it on the grill. It's not smart. Does anybody have any questions about bottlenecks and overlaps and that kind of good stuff? Don, what's up?
Yes, so when I designed the back of the house, I had put 2 doorway entranceways into the kitchen, and then I had the center aisle. So my intent was to take the staff back there at the front of the house and say, look, this is where we're going to walk through this, so you know where everything is at. So I think that's the biggest thing, is taking them in the back and show them, so that they don't get, you can still have cross-utilization, but you won't get that bottleneck as much. So if I need to go to the dish area, I know it's on the left side. I got to go through that way. And to the right. So I made the flow big enough and wide enough that I used my space, but I used it more so they could move around more, so it became more effective and efficient versus just an effective place to work. I wanted to be efficient. So having the 2 entrances and the flow around the table and knowing where everything is at, I think for me is critical and important for not students, but sorry, get out of that mood. For the employees to know where they're going to be, where everything is at.
Yeah, I agree with your mentality, and I think you're thinking along the right lines. Because I know from having been in the military when I was younger, everything has a place and a purpose, right? Everything gets stored somewhere. It's not where you want it, it's where it belongs, right? Okay, so if you have that mentality, which is very, very smart, but the problem is in here, you have a lot of entry-level positions under a very high stress, high pace environment. So shortcuts are oftentimes followed to make themselves faster and everything else. So if the booster chairs belong in the far left-hand corner, but there's an empty space right next to the right-hand corner, guess where it's going to go, right?
Sure.
Because that's the mentality. And so that what you're thinking is correct, but trying to overcome that and meet in the middle is where the success is. You mentioned 2 doors going into the kitchen. You want to have 1 door that goes in, 1 door that goes out. And that's the standard rule of thumb. You don't want any head-on collisions. You oftentimes look, kitchens 99% of the time will either have 2 doors, 1 in, 1 out, or 1 door with 2 panels, right? And 1 is for in, 1 is for out, and they usually have windows in them, and those are for safety purposes. Like I said, a lot of entry-level positions, a lot of people under pressure for the first time in their life, they're scrambling. You have to make it what we call in the restaurant industry is idiot-proof as possible. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. When you're thinking the swinging doors, those are hard. Those are just people you're not thinking, you're just moving, and so those swinging doors are really tough. Having 2 doors, 1 in, 1 out, yes, and understanding it is definitely right.
Right. And what I try to do when I'm doing this operational flow exercise is I try to put myself in the shoes of the employee, right? And say you'll have a younger, 17-year-old dishwasher, right? First time in his job, he's just starting out. The place is going to be very, very busy. It's warm back there. He's under pressure. The cooks are yelling, hey, I need plates, or I need tongs, or I need this. And so you have to be in that mindset to make things as simple and as foolproof as possible to assist these people to be able to do the best job they can. And with that being said, it's a challenge, and that's the hard part of this operational exercise. With this week's operational exercise, you're going to have to include a brief statement as to why this will work with your numbers that you worked on in CE 165 or CE 167. So why your labor projections from your food and beverage cost control will work with this. This is an example of the response that you would provide. My concept, Le Cirque, which is a very famous restaurant, will require 4 line cooks, 2 prep cooks, and 2 dishwashers in the kitchen. Each staff member will be assigned to an independent station that does not overlap with another staff member. So there, I'm just justifying that I have X amount of employees and each person has a place to work, so we're not going to overlap. The design also allows for easy access to the dining room and storage areas. Also, make sure you include a clear and concise summary of your concept with this week's assignment as well. So that is the written part of the assignment. Chef Suzanne, do you have anything to add to the intensity of operational flow?
I will add for that part, that slide you just went over where they have to respond to that information. That can just go on the assignment submission page, right above where you would put your link or right below your link. So it doesn't, because I know folks wonder where they should put those things. And you can just type that paragraph or those few sentences in right above or below your link for your for your facility layout tool.
There you go. And this next slide that we're going to talk about, we're going to start getting into the actual assignment this week. These slides that are in the weekly presentation are just for demonstration purposes only. Make sure that you are working with your facility layout tool that you opened in week 1 for this week's assignment. So in week 1, we did, I think we chose 5. Was it 5 or 6 menu items, Chef Suzanne?
5.
5. So we chose 5 menu items that came from different stations, and we listed them out in this fashion on slide 1. Does everybody remember that? So for this week, you are going to pull, hang on, let me get back to that slide. there are colored dots here to the side. You are going to left click on one dot and put it next to one item. That signifies that this item will be tracked by this red color star for your operational flow. If you want to choose green for your second item, that's perfectly fine as well. And you will drag and you will drop that right next to your item. This way, Chef Suzanne knows which items you are referring to in the operational flow chart. So once again, you will right click on the color star that you want to use, and you will drag and you will drop it next to the item that you choose to work with for this week's assignment. Does everybody understand that? Okay, so you're only going to be working with 2 of the 5 items that you chose this week. And then you will refer to slide 2 that talks about week 5, right? So choose 2 menu items from slide 1, and you will left click, drag the colored star and put it right next to it, and mark them with the color workflow labels in the left margin. Then we're going to go on to the continued slide. Using the same colors you used to mark your 2 menu items, drag and drop the numbered workflow labels to show the workflow of those 2 items, right? So in our first slide, we chose red and green. And our next slide, you want to take it over from here, Chef Suzanne?
I will if you want to leave that up there.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
You want to walk me through it?
Sure. I've already forgot what the first item was.
Okay, the first item is the grilled chicken sandwich, and the second item is going to be a Caesar salad.
Okay. So for the grilled chicken, it looks like it starts from the reach in and goes from there. There's an item that's going to go on the chicken is going to go on the grill. And then there's going to also be something to say the flat top, I think.
Okay.
And so basically, I'm the cook. I'm taking the item out of the cooler. I'm putting it on the one item on the grill, maybe something else on the flat top. I guess maybe it's grill. And then when it's ready for me to assemble, I'm going to take it off and put it on the salad station, maybe to the right.
Okay.
And then I'm going to assemble it, and it's going to go on the counter waiting for the servers to come pick it up.
Okay.
And the idea behind it is you are tracking that item to make sure that all of your equipment is in the right place. So there isn't a lot of overflow and a lot of excessive steps. And then you'll do that again. And so what you're looking for is fairly straight lines. I like to say almost like the letter C. Right, so if you look at those numbers there, they almost form like a letter C. That's what you're looking for. You don't want it to look like it's some sort of football, the little X's and O's and traveling all over the place. Nice direct lines. And then you'll do the exact same thing for the second item using, in this case, the green dot. I don't remember what the green one was again.
The green dot is the Caesar salad.
Okay, so the Caesar salad is again going to start with the first dot being the cooler.
Pantry cooler?
Sure. Yes, because that's, the pantry cooler over there.
Okay.
And then it looks like, I don't think that one didn't have chicken or anything on it, did it?
No.
Okay, so basically it's going to get assembled, and then it's going to go to the pass-through, and then out to the dining room.
Okay.
And so again, what you're looking for is those nice straight lines, pretty direct routes. And what that means is you spent, this past week designing your kitchen, and you may have everything in the kitchen that you need, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's in the most efficient place. So like in this example, the red number 1 isn't necessarily in the best place. So we might want to move it over so that it's on the other side of, say, the grill. Maybe move the grill over and put that there. And so this is what you're going to be doing this week, is you're going to put your dots in, and then you're going to kind of look at it and think, I don't know that this is the most efficient. I maybe need to move some of these items around. and try and get everything in the most efficient place possible for chef. The dots are the worst sometimes. And so, but this is nice that you can all see that, you know, if you're having trouble moving some of your dots, if you move some of the other items, you can get to what it is you need. You just have to move it and then put it right back, just like Chef just did. So now look how much more efficient for that first menu item, that grilled chicken. Now, basically, if I'm the cook making that, I have very little that I have to do. There's not a whole lot of traveling, which is those footsteps that we've literally been talking about since day one. Right, so that's what you're looking to do for this, is put in those dots. And if you start looking, because I'm going to do exactly what, actually I have a little line maker. And so I'll actually will track out your lines for you. And if I'm doing this with my little dot, it means you don't have things in the most efficient place. And so you need to move them. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
I promise it's not near as scary as it probably, if you just jumped into this assignment. You've already written the menu items, you've already chosen them, so you just have to pick 2 of them. You've already got your kitchen designed, so now you're just going to put the dots in. And this is when you're going to look and decide, is your equipment in the right place? You know, so if you've got a hand sink way over on the far side of the kitchen, maybe that's not the best place for it, right? So really, there's no set number on how many steps you have to have for this assignment, because there's like, what, 10 dots for each one, I think. So you can do 10 different dots. There's a lot of dots. So you're looking to do somewhere between like 3 and 6 steps for each menu item. Because there are some menu items like a Caesar salad that may only have just a few small steps. But then you may have, you know, maybe a burger that comes with fries that may have some additional steps, or maybe a grilled salmon dish may have some additional steps. And so you're just putting those dots in, and then you will adjust equipment as needed, because the grade is about, the rubric is wanting you to make your kitchen the most efficient without a lot of overlap.
This exercise will save you a tremendous amount of money.
Yes.
In the long run. So you might find that you could have one person that could manage all of this. Instead of having to have 2 cooks, you could just have 1 cook that takes care of it. You just saved yourself the salary of 1 person. You might find out that you have to reverse some equipment like we just did in order to make things a little bit more efficient. So this exercise will stretch the mind just a little bit more. So, any questions, anybody? Thoughts, concerns?
I have a question. You kind of answered it, but for confirmation purposes, we're allowed to go in and move equipment and things like that around to make sure that everything's efficient.
Yes, you actually need to do that. Putting the dots in, and you may find out that you've got everything in just the right spot first time around, and that would be great. But if you start putting those dots in and you're like, whoa, my cooler is way in the wrong place, I need to move the cooler. And that's exactly what we want you to move things if they're in the wrong spot. Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Good question, Tiffany. Thanks. Paul, what's up?
If we get to put these dots in and it's really not working, are we able to move walls and just redesign part of the kitchen?
Absolutely. That's what we want you to do, because I think that's going to happen to quite a few of you out there. Chef Suzanne speaks about, you know, from history here. And this exercise will get you to know that, hey, I have to move things based on the operational flow. So it's expected that you will. Yep. Mary Lou.
Just to kind of clarify, I believe I got the assignment down just on the discussion. Just pretty much copy and paste the link of where we've been working on all these past weeks, right? For everybody else to have a chance to look at it and get the feedback, correct?
And provide a summary of your concept.
Okay, thank you.
Very important. You're welcome. Does anyone else have any other questions? Anyone?
Mandy has her hand up.
Mandy.
Hey, so we're working on the assumption that all prep work has been done. One of my items in particular, like everything that I need for that particular meal has been taken out of the walk-in and prepped to to the individual stations. I don't have to add those steps, correct?
In reality, no. For this, you really don't. As long as you've got between 3 and 6 steps, you're fine. But when you're actually going to do this for your business one day, you may want to start with things are going to have to go from the walk-in to the reach-in, you know, so at a later time when you are doing this for your business, you may want to expand and go straight from the back door all the way to the, you know, the front door, you know, but for the assignment, you're just looking at somewhere around 3 to 6 steps, and you have 5 items to choose from. So if you start putting in your dots and you only have 2 steps, don't choose that item. Pick something that's got 3 to 6 steps.
Okay, because one particular item has brisket, and it's like I was overthinking it, I suppose. I was, okay, I've got to get the brisket out of the walk-in. I've got to prep the brisket. I got to smoke the brisket. I got to put it in the hot box. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't have enough dots.
Yeah.
I'm working with the brisket is done and ready to go.
That's right. Don't focus too much on your prep.
Okay, thank you so much.
Otherwise, you're going to run out of dots. Yes. All right, ladies and gents, thank you for a great live session. Welcome to week 5. Don't forget that next week, 1 week from this Sunday, March the 31st, you have to have all of your work in for the entire class. Please do not procrastinate. And if you need help, Chef Suzanne and I got your back. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you very much. Thanks.